Hello there, friends. Sam here. Yeah, I was just feeling in the mood to do some book reviews. Um, I've had a real increasing interest in exploring magical paths outside of the Western European uh, things that most of us are familiar with, the ceremonial magic of Victorian era, Western European or Greco Roman uh, spirituality, the neo pagan Wiccan movement, and so on. Um, as well as doing quite a bit of reading recently in Eastern Europe, I've become interested in the uh, southern end of North America, the Mexican, Caribbean, and Latinx paths. And I have a few recent books and some not quite so recent to recommend to people who are interested in finding out more about these paths. I'm going to start with a few popular books written for a popular audience. Let's see, Mexican Magic by Laura Davila, just published actually by Wiser, or yep, this year, 2024. This is a really nice little grimoire. Gives you a It's from Mexican folk Catholicism, basically. There's not a great deal of influence here from the indigenous or African religions that hybridized into the folk religion of Mexico and the Caribbean. Uh, but a good introduction to various saints, especially what do you call it? House magic, kitchen witchery, um, spells, recipes, devotional stuff. She gives a very interesting little historical introduction to uh, her understanding of Mexican magic as being uh, in resistance, the poor people resisting the chaos of particularly the narco wars of the latter part of the last century, um, and the origins in ordinary people's lives. Um, Good book. Yeah, just a really solid little grimoire. I'll recommend that to people. Secrets of Santa Muerte by Cressida Stone, published 2022, also by Wiser. Um, Again, a good grimoire, good introduction to the rapidly growing worship of the Santa Muerte, the bony lady, the saint of death, who, by her nature, of course, welcomes all. Death comes for all of us. Santa Marta does not discriminate in who worships her, and provides help in a wide range for a wide range of issues in people's lives. Um, Gives the nuts and bolts of who is Santa Marta, how do you work with her, influences from indigenous pre-conquest deities, as well as influences from European ideas of the ruler of death. Um, Let me say first of all that there is the ethics here. Santa Marta has no problem at all with hexing people, no problem at all with cursing, or with helping people to lift curses. What she's interested in is just people who are devoted to her and what they want. So there are offerings that you can make, there are spells that you can do, there are a lot of different associations with her, how to set up an altar, the different types of statues and other icons. It's really quite an interesting and very useful. Again, it's a grimoire. It's principally about here's stuff that you can do, and here's how you do it, and here's how to call upon the bony lady to get what you want. Yeah, worth reading for the practical stuff. And a third practical recent book. This is Veneration Rites of Curanderismo, Invoking the Sacred Energy of Our Ancestors by Erika Buenaflor, who is, let's see, published by Bear and Company, Inner Traditions, 2023. Again, this Curanderismo is less worshipful and more practical. It's a magical system from Mexico, widespread amongst Latinx people in the United States as well. Ceremonies to honor your ancestors. This is the principal focus of this book. Not just on the Day of the Dead, although she has some beautiful photos in here of these standard ancestor altars of the Day of the Dead, and energy work, different spells, offerings. A good book, particularly interesting for those who are following up on ancestor and working with your ancestors, particularly from this tradition, from the Mexican and Latin end of things. Okay, so that's the immediate popular stuff. Yeah, here's another book. This is an older book. Let's see. 1983, Flash of the Spirit, African and Afro-American Art and Philosophy by Farris Thompson, published by Vantage Books, mainstream large publisher. This is a really interesting look at the way that African and Afro-American art and literature developed. The various groups of enslaved people who contributed ideas to music, art, culture in general. Some strange and interesting specifics, like bottle trees, the different deities of like Shango and Legba and others. It's just lavishly illustrated, very interesting, scholarly, but not written in a stuffy kind of way. This is definitely for a wide popular audience, and it's a great way to get inspiration. How African ideas of syncopation and polyrhythmic ideas moved into American, not just American music where it's really obvious, but also into language and literature, art. It's a heck of a good book. Definitely recommend that one. Now let's see. Hall of Mirrors. Hall of Mirrors, Power, Witchcraft, and Caste in Colonial Mexico. Published by Duke University Press in 2003. This is definitely a scholarly work. But it's not written in a stuffy kind of fashion. It has a large amount of of personal accounts drawn from court transcripts and other sources about the way that magic use and witchcraft was a source of power for particularly women and indigenous people in colonial Mexico. It gives a lot of insight on how this on how magic use in a early modern non-English speaking culture worked. Quite a different approach. For example, witches were never burned or hanged in Mexico. They were more likely to be exiled, given a good whipping, made to go into the women's quarters and that kind of thing, but never persecuted in the same way that they were in the English-speaking world or in the German communities. Yeah, just a lovely, interesting insight. Good history. Okay, yeah, this is a little lighter. This is Oya, In Praise of the Goddess by Judith Gleason. Again, it's also an older book, 1987, published by Shambhala Publications. A personal account of being involved with the goddess Oya, a woman who converted to Santeria and became a devotee of Oya, and how Oya came to America, what her traditional attributes were in southern Nigeria, where she originated, iconography, religious practices, hymns to her. This woman, Judith Gleason's personal encounters and her experience of being a devotee of Oya. It's a really interesting, more personal account, and it gives you a very good idea of what life as a devotee of this particular goddess is like. Yeah. Okay. Another classic work. This one from 1953. But it is a classic and definitely deserves to be read if you are interested in voodoo. Maya Deren, Divine Horsemen, The Living Gods of Haiti, 1953. This is a reprint by Document Text. Well illustrated, interesting little book. Maya Deren was a Jewish-American experimental filmmaker and dancer who went to Haiti in the late 40s and early 1950s with an interest in the dances, the voodoo dances and music, and she ended up being grabbed by Freda Erzulie, the goddess of love, sexuality, feminine allure, and so on, more or less equivalent to Aphrodite, and becoming a priestess of voodoo. And this is her account, not just her personal account, but principally an ethnography of voodoo ritual practices, the different goddesses and gods, where they came from and what they do, the nature of the loa, and working the rituals and practices and how they worked in the community. The sacredness of the drums, a lot of things. This really is a classic in the field. Her book was also accompanied. She did produce a documentary film of voodoo dances and ceremonies called Divine Horsemen as well. That is just really fascinating. Again, recorded back in the early 50s, late 40s, so it's in black and white and so on, but gives a fascinating insight into the development of that spiritual tradition at the time. Okay, some more scholarly stuff now. These are all three fairly hardcore scholarship. This one, Roberto Strongman, Queering Black Atlantic Religions. Um, Strongman, let's see, this one is what year? 2019, Duke University Press. Strongman's a gay man who's involved in voodoo, and he's very interested in the gender dynamics, particularly the queer gender dynamics in the African diasporic religions. And it's really, if you can get past the somewhat annoying cultural studies style of his writing, um, it's really quite a fascinating gender study of these religions, of how possession trance works, because, of course, quite often uh, a female goddess will possess a male-bodied worshiper, and vice versa. A lot of the deities are definitely queer. They're uh, gender gender fluid. Um, they're Yeah, it's so he does a lot of talking about art and culture, film, graphic arts, some really quite fascinating things to say about movies like Donna Flora's Two Husbands, Bread and Chocolate, uh, and yeah, the work of Hector Hippolyte, the different yeah, fresa chocolate, and not bread and chocolate, and yeah, yeah, just a really interesting book, interesting book, interesting read, particularly for those who are interested in gender and religion, the way that queer sensibility works through this family of African derived religions. Good stuff. Okay, and two books now. A Year in White, Cultural Newcomers to Lukumi and Santeria in the United States by Lynn Carr. C. Lynn Carr, published in 2015 by, what was it? Oh, yeah, Rutgers University Press. Um, this is an interesting ethnography. It's the Year in White is the titular year. Is uh, during the process of preparation for initiation into these religions. Initiates have to wear nothing but white for an entire year. They also have restrictions on diet and behavior, a variety of other things. And so, what Carr, who was in the process of being initiated into Lukumi, did was surveyed a large number of other people who were converts into Lukumi, who weren't raised in the Afro-diasporic religions, about what they felt, what they had to do, their their understanding of the different restrictions, like protocols around eating, uh, around around clothing, other people's experiences of them, their experiences of the deities. It's a pretty standard ethnography, but it's very well done, well written, and quite interesting, particular because many people still see voodoo, Santeria, the other Afro-diasporic religions as being in some way restricted to a particular race or culture or whatever, and that never has been the case. But this is, as far as I know, the first ethnography to deal with principally with or exclusively with people who are converted into those traditions, and it gives a great deal of insight on their experience. Learning a whole new spiritual language, a whole new way of behaving. It's interesting. And finally, Spirited Diasporas, Personal Narratives and Global Futures of Afro-Atlantic Religions, edited by Martin Tsang, copyright 2023, from University of Florida Press. This is an anthology of personal accounts of people who encountered and became initiates into different Afro-diasporic religions, Voodoo, Santeria, Lakumi. They come from all over the world. There's one fellow here who's a practitioner in Japan, and he has some very interesting things to say about parallels between the kami, that is the indigenous Japanese spirits, and the loa. Another talks about the lessons on healing, and another about the arguments inside the traditions about how Catholic or how Christian they should be, how much they should be African, and so on. People from Canada, the United States, Japan, from the United Kingdom, people who are gay, straight, bi, genderqueer, people who are of different ethnicities, Jewish, Chinese, and so on. It's really a fascinating collection of personal accounts of involvements in these religions. So, I rattled through these all fairly quickly. I would suggest that if you're interested in this area, that all of these books are worth a read, depending on whether you want to start trying to do a practice, or whether you're just interested in other people's experiences. It depends which of these books you would grab. I'll list them all in the comment the section below. You take care of yourselves now, and I'll talk to you again soon.